Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English channel. In our today's video, we'll be covering an important scheme of Union government known as PM SHRI scheme. But why is PM SHRI scheme is in news? Let us try to find that one out first. Now the Kerala government has approached the Apex Court of India, that is Supreme Court of India, highlighting that central government has not given them the funds, that is 1500 crore rupees, that the state is eligible to get under various centrally sponsored schemes in the education sector, primarily the funds for Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. And according to Kerala government, the central government has not provided them with funds because the Kerala government did not become a part of PM Schools for Rising India scheme. And this PM Schools for Rising India scheme, abbreviated as PM SHRI scheme, is the subject of our today's discussion. But not just that, we also will be covering what is Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Understood? But first, let us start our today's discussion by understanding the PM SHRI scheme. Now, what type of a scheme is PM SHRI scheme? It is a centrally sponsored scheme, which means the funding for this scheme will be shared between both central government as well as state government. Now, what is the ratio of sharing of funds between these two governments in cases of centrally sponsored scheme? That is, for most states in India, this is at 60-40 ratio, which means 60% of the funds will be provided by central government and 40% of the funds will be provided by state governments. But when it comes to some lesser developed states like Himalayan states, like northeastern states, here the funding is shared at the ratio of 90:10, which means 90% of the funding is shared by central government and rest, that is 10%, will be shared by state government, right? Now, this scheme was launched by Union government in 2022, right? And the intention of this scheme was to establish more than 14,400 schools that will be called as PM SHRI schools. And this will be done by enhancing existing schools, and the intention of this was to showcase the implementation of National Education Policy 2020. Therefore, the primary objective of this scheme was to create an inclusive and nurturing environment so that the students who are studying in these schools are not just taught well, but also their well-being and safety is taken care of by offering them diverse learning experiences and access to quality infrastructure and educational resources. So therefore, the intention of the government was to make model schools, and they will be called as PM SHRI schools. Understood? And in these model schools, diverse learning experience will be provided, not just rote learning or book learning, but learning through experiences and case studies will be done. And this will be offered through a better infrastructure. So therefore, these schools will be acting as a model schools. Understood? Now, let us understand what is the duration of the scheme. The scheme will be valid for 5 years, that is from 2022-23 to 2026 and 27. And after the end of the scheme, the responsibility of maintaining these schools to the level where it was left will be the responsibility of state and union territory governments. So the union government will provide budgetary support to these schools for 5 years, and after that the schools will be maintained and taken care of by the respective governments of state as well as union territory. Now, the budgetary support for this scheme has been provided for 27,360 crores for 5 years, and out of this 18,128 crore is the share of central government, and rest automatically, you understand, will be pitched by the governments of state government. Now, to become a part of this scheme, what state governments needs to do, that they need to sign a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the Education Ministry of Government of India. Then they can officially become a part of this scheme. Understood? Now, what are the features of this scheme? What this scheme wants to do? First, it wants to enhance the infrastructure levels of the school by creation of modern labs, creation of good libraries which has books not just on the relevant subject but everything, right? Similarly, art rooms will also create, so that it creates the curiosity of the students so as to enlist them in becoming participants in various art subjects. So these essentially is to enhance the infrastructural levels of the school, academic infrastructure as well as extracurricular infrastructure. Second is to integrate the technologies in the school. For example, there will be smart classrooms that will have internet connectivity them, and it also will have digital learning tools like projector, like this modern writing board or blackboard, right? So essentially, as against blackboards that used chalk or the highlighters, these classrooms will have modern digital boards, these will have projectors, and therefore these classrooms will be smart in nature, having active internet connectivity. Similarly, it wants to have, or it wants to give students a holistic learning experience, right? So learning will not just be from book but also through play-based learning in early years particularly, and flexible teaching methods which will cater the teaching essentially to the requirements of the students. Suppose good students will be taught in one way and students who need extra attention will be taught in another way. So therefore it provides a holistic learning experience to the students. Now these students, their learning outcomes will be prioritized. The emphasis will not just be to get more marks to the student, but the ultimate intention of the scheme is to help students get educated in a better way so that everything that is taught to them in the schools becomes understandable to them and they can apply this knowledge into real life situations. So this does not want to become children smart, but it wants to make them also street smart. Similarly, the quality of teaching and infrastructure in the schools, they will be assessed through a school quality assessment framework program where regular evaluations will be done in order to maintain and sustain the high standards of these schools who will be enrolled as PM SHRI schools. So understand, so more or less these are the broad features of the scheme. Now let us understand what kind of schools are eligible to become a modern or a PM SHRI school. Okay, now schools who are eligible to become PM SHRI schools are the schools who are managed by central government, state governments or government of union territories, and also local bodies. When they manage a school, they can become a part of PM SHRI school. Similarly, all Kendriya Vidyalayas and Navodaya Vidyalayas which are non-project schools and learn from permanent buildings, they are also eligible to become a part of PM SHRI school. So from what you get from this discussion, are private schools eligible to become a part of the scheme? The answer is no. Only government run schools, irrespective of which government is running it, be it central government, state government, union territory government or local bodies, these schools will be eligible and not private schools. Remember? Now let us understand what is the eligibility criteria and the selection process to make a school a PM SHRI school. Okay, now this happens through a three-stage process. First, the state government signs an MOU with the Education Ministry of central government. Then the state government will identify eligible schools based on UDISC plus scores. This is a unified digital information system for education. This is basically a portal which labels or ranks schools based on their different outcomes and experiences, and based on these criteria the eligible schools will be identified by the state government. Now among the eligible schools that will be identified by state governments, they will be made to have a challenge method where eligible schools will compete among themselves to fulfill certain criteria which will be set by the union government, and once the eligible schools fulfill certain criteria, these names will be suggested to the union ministry, right? So states and union territory, they will verify the claim and recommend the names of the school to the union ministry, and an expert committee which will be headed by the education school secretary of union government, they will make the final selection of which schools are eligible to become PM SHRI schools. So this is the process through which schools are identified, eligible schools are identified, then they undertake challenge method in order to become eligible for getting benefits under the scheme. Understand? Now, why this scheme is in news? So far, right now, about 12,400 schools from primary to higher secondary level, which are spread across 670 districts in India, they have become a part of PM SHRI scheme. But what you need to remember that the schools that are under state boards, particularly of states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, they are right now not a part of the scheme. And this is because these respective state governments, Kerala, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, they've refused to sign an MOU with the Union Education Ministry. Now let us understand why is Kerala refusing to sign the MOU. Now you understand this is basically a political dispute. Kerala government, it is run by Communist Party of India and it has opposed not just PM SHRI scheme, but it has opposed the broader NEP 2020, that is the National Education Policy. And you need to understand PM SHRI scheme is one of the aspects and part and parcel of NEP 2020. Now the communist-led government in Kerala, it sees or it identifies NEP as a tool to promote saffronization in India. And it argues that PM SHRI scheme will bring the state schools or schools that are run by state boards in the respective states under the control of center, which is not essentially true, because what you need to understand that this scheme wants to make schools better in terms of infrastructure and teaching, and the ultimate support from the union government to these schools will be just for 5 years, and after that the responsibility of maintaining and sustaining the standards of these schools will be the responsibility of respective state governments. Understood? So this one part of the problem is that essentially this is a political problem, not so much a administrative problem. Okay, Similarly, the Kerala government has also defended its action of not signing the MOU, saying that first of all, on infrastructure front, the Kerala government has taken a great effort and major progresses have been made in the last 9 years since the Communist Party is in power. Similarly, it has said that 40,000 smart classrooms have been established in numerous schools in Kerala, which currently has broadband connection. So saying that Kerala government is defending that it has already implemented many and major elements of PM SHRI scheme. So the need of signing and accepting this scheme is not applicable for Kerala government, right? So this is what the Kerala government is saying in case of its defending. Now, before the completion of this video, let us also understand the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, because Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan is an umbrella scheme of union government when it comes to school education. Therefore, it is also a centrally sponsored scheme. So here the funding will also be provided by both central and state government, and the intention of this scheme is to ensure universal access to quality education from pre-primary to higher education secondary level. So essentially, this is an umbrella scheme which covers each and every aspect of school education, and one of the part of Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan is also the PM SHRI scheme. Now, this Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan scheme is to support state governments to implement the Right to Education Act of 2009, which guarantees free and compulsory education to children between ages of 6 to 14 years of age. And this scheme essentially focuses on school infrastructure development, and not just school infrastructure development, but also ensuring inclusive education for disadvantaged group of students, but also on qualitative aspects, that is to undertake better teacher training and recruitment, and also improving the learning outcomes of students. So it not just takes quantitative and infrastructure development, but it also wants to take qualitative development. Understood? And as this is an umbrella scheme, so PM SHRI scheme is a sub-component of this Sarva or Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Understood? So this is the entire discussion of the day. Now, before ending this session, I'd want each and every one of you to solve this particular question. Please let me know the correct answer in the comment section. This is the question where you have to identify correct statements, which of the three are correct. And if you want to download the notes, these will be available on my Telegram channel. What you need to do is go to channel called as ATS Live, search and write ATS Live, and the channel that you will find is where the notes will be. Subscribe to it if you haven't still, and if you're still unable to find it, you have an option to scan this QR code. So with this, I end our today's session. Please do not forget to solve this question and let me know the correct answer in the comment section. So this is all from my side. Please have a very good night, and we'll see each other again.